You quit your job as a doctor to become a barista because your son needs you more than your patients do, and that sentence alone carries a weight most people will never understand. His name is Michael. He's 7 years old. Autism spectrum disorder, nonverbal. He has a routine so specific that moving his blue cup 3 inches to the left can unravel his entire day. When he's overwhelmed, he hits himself. Hard. You've held his small hands against his chest more times than you can count, whispering that it's okay, that you're here, that he's safe. The word safe does a lot of work in your house. Maybe too much. You're an emergency medicine physician. Were. The pay is $290,000 a year, which sounds like security until you subtract the student loans. You owe $216,000 from medical school. The monthly payment is $2,500, and that's on the income-driven repayment plan that stretches the debt across 2 decades. Every month, you write a check that could cover rent in most cities, and it barely touches the principal. The interest accumulates faster than you can shovel money at it. You are, by every conventional measure, successful and completely underwater at the same time. Michael's care costs more than people expect. The therapy appointments, the special education services, the sensory tools, the weighted blanket that somehow costs $140, the noise-canceling headphones, the safe foods because he'll only eat 6 things and 4 of them have to be specific brands or he won't touch them. Insurance covers some of it. You cover the rest. You've gotten used to paying for things that don't show up on anyone else's budget. But the real cost isn't financial. It's the 12-hour shifts in the ER where you're stitching up a drunk driver at 2 in the morning while your phone sits in your locker with 3 missed calls from the overnight caregiver. It's coming home at 8 after a night shift to find Michael crying because the caregiver didn't cut his toast diagonally. It's the sick feeling in your stomach every single time you walk out the door for work, wondering what you're going to find when you get back. You've been through 4 caregivers in 2 years. The first one quit after 3 weeks. She said Michael was too difficult, which is a polite way of saying she didn't want to deal with a child who communicates through meltdowns. The second one was fine until you came home early one day and heard her yelling at him to stop making that noise. You fired her on the spot. The third one seemed great. Patient. Experienced. She had references. You trusted her. Then Michael started flinching when you reached for him too quickly. It took you 2 weeks to realize what was happening. She'd been grabbing his arm too hard when he didn't comply. Bruises hidden under his sleeves. You reported her. You fired her. You held Michael on the bathroom floor while he rocked himself and you tried not to fall apart. The fourth caregiver is fine. Probably. You think, you hope, but you don't know, and that's the problem. You can't know. Not really. Because you're not there. You're at the hospital, running a code on a cardiac arrest patient, and your son is at home with someone you've known for 6 weeks. You've done background checks, you've checked references, you've watched her interact with Michael. She seems kind, but you've thought that before. Here's the moral trap that no one talks about. You're a doctor. You save lives. That's not an exaggeration or a figure of speech. You have pulled people back from the edge of death with your hands and your training and your ability to make decisions in seconds that most people get hours to consider. Last month, you resuscitated a 16-year-old girl who overdosed on fentanyl. She's alive because you were there. Her parents hugged you in the hallway and cried and thanked you. And you smiled and said you were just doing your job. Then you went home and wondered if your son was safe while you were doing it. How do you weigh that? One life against another. Dozens of patients who need you against one child who is yours. The math doesn't work. There's no equation that solves it. Stay in medicine and you might save 100 people this year. Leave and you definitely save one. But that one is Michael. And he can't tell you when something's wrong. He can't say the caregiver hurt him. He can only flinch. He can only bruise. He can only break down in ways you have to interpret like a detective searching for clues in the wreckage. You think about it for months. The guilt sits on your chest like a weight. You lie awake at 3 in the morning doing the financial calculations in your head. Can you afford this? Can you not afford this? If you quit, the loan payments don't stop. The bills don't pause. You'll have to find something else. Something with hours that let you be home. Something that pays enough to survive, even if it doesn't pay enough to thrive. The hospital doesn't make it easier. 47% of physicians meet the criteria for burnout. You are definitely in that 47%. The electronic health record system crashes twice a week. Every patient interaction requires 15 minutes of documentation that has nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with billing codes. You see 30 patients in a shift. You spend 4 hours on charting. The administrative burden has metastasized into something that feels like it's designed to break you. But that's not why you're leaving. You're leaving because you came home last Tuesday and found Michael sitting in the corner rocking, and the caregiver said he'd been like that for an hour and she didn't know why. You knelt down next to him. You touched his shoulder gently. He looked up at you with an expression you'll never forget. Relief. Like you were the only safe thing in his world, and you'd been gone. You put in your notice the next day. The hospital administrator asks if you're sure. Your colleagues say you're making a mistake. Your parents ask what you're going to do about the loans. Your ex-wife, Michael's mother who left 3 years ago because she couldn't handle it, calls you irresponsible. Everyone has an opinion about what you're doing wrong. Nobody has a solution for what you're trying to protect. You find a job at a coffee shop 4 blocks from your apartment. The pay is $15 an hour. With tips, maybe 18. You'll work mornings. Michael's school runs until 3. You'll be home when he gets off the bus. You'll be there for the meltdowns and the routines and the moments when he needs someone who knows that the blue cup goes on the left side of the table, not the right. The math is brutal. You'll make about $30,000 a year. Your loan payment alone is $30,000 a year. The numbers don't work. You'll have to defer. You'll have to figure something out, but Michael will be safe. You'll know he's safe because you'll be the one keeping him safe. You start the barista job on a Monday. The espresso machine is complicated. The customers are impatient. Your hands, which have performed procedures that require millimeter precision, shake the first time you try to steam milk. You are massively overqualified and completely out of your depth at the same time. But you clock out at 2:30. You walk home. You're there when the bus arrives. Michael sees you waiting on the porch. His face lights up. Not a smile. He doesn't really smile, but his eyes change. He runs to you. You catch him. He wraps his arms around your neck and presses his face into your shoulder, and you stand there holding him. And for the first time in 2 years, you're not wondering if he's okay. You know he's okay, because you're here. The months settle into something that almost feels sustainable. You learn to make lattes. You memorize regular orders. You get better at small talk, which is ironic because you used to discuss treatment plans for multi-system trauma, and now you're asking people if they want room for cream. But you're home every day at 3. You're there for dinner. You're there for bedtime. You read to Michael every night, the same 3 books in the same order, and he falls asleep holding your hand. The financial situation is exactly as bad as you predicted. You defer the loans, you drain your savings, you move to a cheaper apartment, you sell your car and take the bus. You cut everything that isn't essential. It's not comfortable, it's barely manageable. But Michael is thriving in ways he wasn't before. His teacher says he's more regulated. His therapist says he seems happier. You see it yourself. Fewer meltdowns. More moments where he looks at you and you can tell he feels secure. You think maybe you made the right choice. You think maybe this is actually working. Then Michael gets sick. It starts as a cold. Runny nose, low fever, nothing concerning. You keep him home from school. You make him soup, the one kind he'll eat. You monitor him the way any parent would, but also the way a physician would. You know what to look for. You know when to worry. Except you don't see it coming. Nobody does. The cold turns into pneumonia. Pneumonia in a child with developmental differences who can't tell you where it hurts or how bad it is. By the time you realize how serious it is, his oxygen saturation is dropping. You take him to the ER. Your ER. The place you used to work. You carry him through the doors, and your former colleagues take him back immediately because they see your face and they know. They intubate him. They start antibiotics. They do everything right. You stand in the corner of the room, watching people perform the same interventions you used to perform, except this time you're not the doctor. You're the parent. And you can't do anything except watch. He's in the ICU for 6 days. You don't leave. You sleep in the chair next to his bed. You hold his hand. You talk to him even though he can't respond. You tell him you're here. You tell him he's safe. You tell him everything is going to be okay.